And welcome back to God's Receptionist. Today we are in my daughter's nursery. This wall is pretty blank, but on the other side is a crib. So I am back for another episode, and this episode of my Mommy Ministries, I'm actually talking to the wives out here. I'm talking to the new mothers out here, and I just want to get real this episode. Want to know why? Because it's no secret. I've been fasting this week. I'm supposed to be fasting for 21 days. First week, oh baby, I was on a roll. I was waking up at 5 a.m. I was making sure I had my breakfast before 6 a.m. because it was between 6 and 3 p.m. I was going to be fasting, and I did for the first couple, like maybe the first week. Then my milk production went low, and this is for the new moms who are breastfeeding. Y'all understand what I mean. You do not want to lose that. So my therapist, who's also a faith-based therapist, she's like, girl, you better not, keep fasting because you're going to lose your milk production. You're going to get dry. And I was like, you're right. So what I ended up doing was modifying it and just doing the Daniel fast. Now the Daniel fast is really hard too. So my husband's like, I don't know if I can do the Daniel fast. So we're doing no meat, no desserts, no sugars, no nothing like that. Which is kind of a hard thing, but at the same time, when you have Indian food, it works out. So that's not the point of this episode. This episode, I really wanted to talk about being a wife and what it means to be a wife, and also like learning how to be a wife, but also learning how to be a new mom. Now, the reason I feel like this is near and dear to my heart because my daughter is only 7 months old. My gosh, I finally made it out of the first 6 months, and that was the trenches, like super deep. Okay, so now, this week has been a little bit of a roller coaster. Anybody who fasts, it becomes a big deal because that's when the enemy targets you the most because he's getting you at your weakest state. Now, if you're weakening the flesh, you're strengthening the spirit. So what is he trying to do? He's trying to get your flesh to sin. He's trying to get your flesh to cave. And that's what he's been trying to do to me. It's no secret for me because I am pretty self-aware of myself, right? I caught into this thought process of who I am as a mother and who I am as a wife. And let me just say, if you do your research on Proverbs 31 woman, I am going to be honest, I am not that. I am not a good wife when it comes to the biblical meaning. Now, let's be vulnerable. Don't be over here like, I'm the best wife. I cook, I clean. So do I. I cook, I clean. I got this ring. But at the end of the day, I feel like there's a lot of places I need to work on because a lot of things in my life happen where I can't be that Proverbs 31 woman. I don't wake up as early as I used to because, man, when that girl needs to, have her diaper changed or she is just having a fussy night, guess who's up? Moi. I got to make sure my baby's good. I make sure that she's taken care of. And you know what? Becoming a wife was already a struggle when I first became a wife because now, this is for my independent women. How many of you guys were independent women and were proud of it? A lot, right? Now, I was one of those women. I was working at the Las Vegas Strip, and I was one of the managers in the timeshare division, and I had a decent, salary. It was a good salary. You would consider me one of the 3% of the world because if you're making about 50,000 to 60,000, you're like 3% of the world. People who make a lot of money, and if you're at $100,000, you're literally like making a lot of money. And compared to most of the world, because the world is sadly like there's a lot of third world countries out there where people are living in poverty. So I was living a really good life, and honestly, when I got on my man, I had a lot of pride and I had a lot of ego and I had a lot of faith not in God when it came to like me being taken care of and security wise. It was my finances, girl. When I say I got on my man, I thought I was better. I thought I just better with money because I really was. My dad taught me about finances. My dad owns a few property here and there. He's really good with money management. And for real, I thought I had a real good understanding of financial literacy when it comes down to it, right? I had great credit. I had amazing savings. I had everything you could think of. And he wasn't, as blessed or versed into the financial world as I was. So I used to think, I don't need you. And that was my downfall when it became to understanding men. A lot of us women think men want independent women. But then when we try to be independent, like let's take it to the single days real quick, right? We'll take it back to the single days. When you're single and you're alone, independent. That's what the world's talking about, right? And you're like, yeah, I'm independent. I got a good job. I got a career. I got a good degree. I got everything. And I got a whole home and I got this and I got that, but I don't got a man.
What?
What? Why don't I have a man? Like, I'm every damn full package. See, now that becomes a problem because now we're thinking men want independent women, but at the end of the day, real men want to feel needed. And I did not make my man feel needed, girl. You need to make your man feel needed, and that was a problem. I did not make my man feel needed. I actually made him feel like he was nothing when it came to my needs. Like he couldn't fulfill my needs. He couldn't give me anything I needed. I got what I needed, and that was the sad part. Now, when you're single, no, if a man needs to be needed, because honestly, it's like kind of in their nature. They're like, I need to be needed. And that's what they're built for. They're built to provide. So if they can't provide for you, then what are they doing? They're not living up to what God has created them to be, which are providers. And that's something I didn't understand in the beginning. So when we got married, I still kept that independent mindset. But at this point, I can't keep that independent mindset because back when I was single, it's like you shouldn't submit to a man because when I look back into the adults around me, like when I looked around the adults around me who are married, and I'm from an Indian cultural background, so I'm South Asian. Yo, our women like are doing everything, cooking, cleaning, feeding them, making sure that they're taken care of, doing the laundry, basically doing everything a housewife should. And unfortunately, some of them were really mistreated and were treated as like a step stool or stepping mat or whatever the case is. But that was the reason I didn't want to be submissive to any man because I saw that happening. So I registered as oh, all men are like this. So we got to be independent. And it's really sad, right? Now, when you think about it, when you're a woman of Christian faith, your man needs to feel needed. Your man needs to feel like he's a provider. Your man needs to feel like he's actually doing something for the family. Now, when I got married to mine, I kept the independent mindset. I didn't submit. And there was a time where we were arguing. It was the first year of marriage. And everybody knows the first year of marriage is always the hardest. And then 7 years after that, like, yeah, the first 7 years is really hard. They be lying to me. They first said the first year is hard. Then they said the fifth year. It's going to be up to the fifth year. It's going to be hard. And then they added two more years, which is 7 years. And I'm like, of course, the number of completion. I was like, wow. But not beside the point. I just thought it was crazy because when we were having our problems and we were in a small group and we were with one of our pastors, one of the ones that got us married, and they all knew that I was not trying to talk to them because I'm usually bubbly and fun and all this talkative person. But then I was like quiet. I didn't want to talk. I don't have a poker face. Like, you will know what I'm feeling like. If you don't know, then you're blind. If that my energy will tell you. And they're like, what's going on? And I was like, he's not providing the way he needs to. Financially, he's not where he needs to be, and this and this and this and the third. And he was like, are you submitting? And I'm like, submit what? Submit my application to a new man. Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, look, you're gonna have to let him make his mistakes. Like, you are the one that's fixing his mistakes. You're not letting him fall. I was like, yo, so you're telling me he's literally leading us to financial ruins. And you're telling me that I'm supposed to sit back and just let him do it? It affects me too. And he's all like, of course, that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to be his woman and be with him through thick and thin. And I was like, do you understand what you're asking of me? You're asking me to basically be a part of the slow motion car crash that's happening, and you want me to be in the passenger seat and not do anything. And he said, well, you're going to have to do that because if you keep stepping in and you keep saving him from his downfalls, then you're basically being his God. Now, either you can be his God or God is going to be like, okay, let me be the God. Or if you don't want me to be his God and you want to be his God, then I'm going to back away. And that's what I was doing. I was saving him from that moment in the very, very deep valleys that only God can meet him at. And God was trying to get him there. But because I would want to be the woman and save the day, I would stop that from happening. And I would be his safety net. And then all that resentment will fall back to me. And it's like, it's my fault. I didn't understand it at the time. But then that's when God is like, okay, there's two things happening here. One, you're not letting your man learn and you're not letting me be his God. Two, you're too busy trying to fix his problems and not realizing that you are not depending on me. You don't trust me as your God. If you trusted me as your God, you would not be saving him. And I'm like, ooh, that's deep. So what do we do? He's like, oh, you gonna find out. And guess what he did? He took away my savings. He took away my job. He took away my credit, which my credit cards were everything. And he took away any financial stability or safety net that I had. And literally, we were riding out faith. I didn't have a job at this point, and he was our main source of income. And guess what? I had to ride on faith then. I had to put all my trust in him then. I had to have him figure it out then. I kept pulling my resources at the time before that, where God's like, stop your resources. Just let him learn. And I'm like, okay. That was the hardest part of my life. And honestly, we're about to be in our third year of marriage this summer. So it's been about two and a half, a little bit over 2.5 years, which is crazy to me. And honestly, like life has changed. I don't get upset as much. He is now providing in a way that he's never provided for before. He's doing the bills. I no longer stress about the bills. He's actually showing me some type of responsibility and accountability when it comes to the finances. And I just fell back. I finally fell into the position of a woman, which is crazy. Like I no longer go and work, and I'm not going out there and be like, I gotta provide for the family. No, like I let him do it, and he comes home, and what do? Well, while he was providing, the first year when he finally got a job, and he's been there since then, that's when he went to a men's retreat, and when he came back, all hell broke loose. And this is a story for another video because this is a long story and another testimony, but that's when he came back and found out that I was pregnant. And ever since then, he's been at the job, but a lot of other trials happened during that time. But we're still going to church religiously. But this video is really just talking about how I had to give up my control. And God wants you to give up your control so that He can take over because He could do more with your surrender than He can with your control. That being said, what are you doing wrong? And I hate to ask that because what do you mean? What am I doing wrong? I'm providing. He's like, but you're not created to provide, baby. I'm sorry. It's sad. It sucks. It sucks to say, but you're not the one that's meant to provide. You're meant to be the one who sticks by his side and just rides along with him through this thing we call life. So are you just still trying to support him or are you trying to provide and take his position? Because that's what happens in this world. We say we want to be more feminine, but we're not. Why? Because we're too busy trying to take up the man's position in life. So, what are you doing? Are you just letting him skate through life and actually learning things with God, or are you trying to be his God? Because I've been there, baby girl. So don't even worry. Like I'm not coming after you. It just sucks to hear it because all your life you're like you need to be independent, but when it comes to your husband, you're not. Because when I got into marriage, I brought my independence, and that was wrong. God basically made us to be codependent on each other when it comes down to figuring things out. We're a partnership, not independent from one another. So why am I going in with that mindset? So if you're a newlywed, welcome to the team, because it's hard. This club that we're a part of, oh my goodness, if you are a woman who used to do it on your own, it is hard to unlearn what you got to unlearn, but just know you're not alone. At the end of the day, God is going to take you on a journey, especially if you're seeking Him. He's going to take you on a journey, what it means to be a woman of faith. And this is one of those moments and trials that He's going to put you in. And these are going to be the tests that He's going to be putting you through until you get it to your thick little skull. It ain't about you anymore. It's about us, me and him, you and him. Okay? So let's get that one thing to know down. You are meant to submit. Whether we hate to hear it or not, it's not really a bad thing. If you have the right man that God has given you, who's a man of faith, then that means that God has given you someone who can lead the household. And if they can't yet lead the household, you just got to stick beside him until he can. And you have to be a support. Now, that takes me back to the idea of Proverbs 31 woman. If you do your research of what a woman of God is and a wife, true biblical wife is, you're gonna be able to tell whether you are that or not. And let me be the first to say I am not a Proverbs 31 woman. One time my husband said, "Oh baby, you're a Proverbs 31 woman." He sent the video on, it was like a reel on IG, and I'm like, that's so sweet that you think that, but for real, that's not me. I am not a Proverbs 31 woman at all by any means. And quite frankly, I just feel that at the end of the day, I think it's sweet that you think that, but it just makes me reflect on the fact that I am being convicted in that moment that I am still not where I need to be as a wife because let's be real, I'll only been married for like 2.5 years. So like I'm still learning a lot. And I just became a mother like last year. Sorry, this monitor that I'm watching my family on here, my wife. You see the problem there? I'm over here calling him my wife. He is my husband, and I must submit. But I'm always making sure that they're okay because sometimes you just can't deal. And anytime I do these videos, I feel like the enemy really just be trying to play with me. And I'm just like, I rebuke you. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus because I cannot. Like, you're like an older, annoying brother that just doesn't get it and just wants to rebel against your father. Like, get over it. Anywho, so that brings me back to the fact that I felt convicted. I'm like, I'm not a Proverbs 31 woman by any means, like, not at all. So it makes me feel like there's so much I have to work on because, let's be real, I am quick to anger. I really am. It's just the temperament is just real. I had that problem since I was a kid, and it's still something I'm trying to learn, and it's something I've been praying on, but God is not going to be able to remove it in 1 minute. I mean, well, He is able, but He's not going to because He wants to get you through it and not take you out of it, okay? He's always going to get you through the situation. God is always going to get you through the situation. He's never going to just get you out of the situation because it's only through the situation where He's going to teach you what you need to learn. So, strap yourself. Be ready for the ride. It's not easy. Now, I'm going to be talking to the new moms, okay? Especially like if you just got married and you're having a baby or you just had a baby. I'm not just saying if you're married, you can even be in a relationship. That's okay. Like, I get it. We all have our different walks in life, and sometimes our cards are dealt the way they're dealt. And God has a special purpose for you. If you're not married yet, you will be married. So, whatever I said, if you feel like it doesn't pertain to you right now because you're not married, just know that it will pertain to you sooner than you think because that God probably brought you to this channel to watch this part of the video or that part just so you are ready to be prepared to not walk into this marriage thinking that it's going to be an independent mindset that gets you through a successful process of marriage. It's not. It's really not. But it's also learning the key to communicate because I'm going to take it back before I go to the mothers. I can't communicate for the heck of me. Why? I can blame it on a factor of things. I can blame it on a number of things. Like at the end of the day, it's not your fault if you didn't learn the skill, but it is your fault if you're not trying to actively learn that skill. And I'll be the first to admit I am weak. I ain't got it in me. I don't know how to do it, and I ask God for every day. But He's not gonna again do it overnight. It's a process, and maybe in like the next 5 years, 10 years, maybe my communication will like or miraculously change. But until then, I have to learn. And that's why it's so important to be in the Word of God because God tells you what to do. And if you are in the Word long enough, you're going to be able to get it through that thick little skull of yours, like me, that you will be a little bit more patient with due time. But maybe that means it's through kids. Sometimes we need to have kids in order to learn patience. And honestly, I am not looking forward to that because I got my baby girl and she can barely, walk yet or talk yet. And I can only imagine what she does. Oh, my Lord. Anyways, so if you're a new wife or you're just newly wed, just keep in mind that it's a journey. They say the first 7 years is the hardest, but once you get through the first 7 years, the number of completion is 7, you will have better, smoother waters that you're gonna be sailing through. Until then, just ride the wave because, girl, what are you gonna do? Leave the man because y'all can't communicate? Leave the man because he's not leading because you're too busy trying to lead for him? Like, just step back, girl. I had to take a step back and my life has changed. That man is paying all the bills. That man is responsible for the finances. If I go somewhere, he gives me the little money. But let me be real, we are not here making a huge salary or anything like that. We are, yeah, we're getting by with the bare minimum. And that's okay. It's okay to get by with the bare minimum because this is where God teaches you how to trust Him, to have faith in Him, to show that He's your Jehovah Jireh, that He's your Jehovah Jireh, the provider of this world. So stop worrying about what you can't do with the little that you have because He literally multiplied the two fishes and five loaves and fed 5,000 people. So is anything too hard for our God? No. And if you think so, then you have a long journey to learn how to trust Him. And that's okay because we all start somewhere. So now, this could be like a whole longer video, but I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. And if there's something there's more I want to talk about, I'll bring it back into another video in the future. We're just gonna now transition into the new moms, okay? So the new moms. I am a new mom. I became a new mom last year, June 16, 2024. Long pregnancy went really fast, but at the time felt like forever. So if you're literally pregnant, it's gonna go faster than you think. I used to look at this situation like, girl, it's never gonna end. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't hold anything down. I'm angry. I say things that are really mean to my husband or my man. And let me just say, it's okay. I have been there, and I said the most mm, unforgivable things. And if anyone heard the things that were said, they were really, really bad. But it's like only another woman or another mother, especially a newly like made mother, will understand of a woman who's pregnant right now or is going through the postpartum hormones. Because honestly, it was really hard for me to control my emotions. I already had an anger issue. I was really short tempered, and then it was just like word diarrhea. Like I would just say whatever. Like I already said what's on my mind. But when that was happening, I was pregnant, I was feeling the hormones for the first time, girl, the things I said, and my man, I sort of, this poor man, his face and all, it was just too much. But I want you to understand that it's not your fault. Hormones happen, and there things are going to be said, and it's not your fault. And you shouldn't feel guilty or convicted or let the enemy convict you for it or condemn you. I'm sorry, you could feel conviction, just don't feel condemned by it because the enemy's going to try to condemn you, but don't. Look, you're gonna get through it, and if you're afraid of labor and delivery, don't be. God is with you. I will be honest. I'm not gonna share my experience if you're a new mom because I don't want to scare you. But I did have a unexpected labor in the way it happened because I ended up having a cesarean at the last minute. And honestly, I knew it was spiritual warfare because God gives you a child to bless your home, and that child's gonna bring you so much joy. So if you're bringing a baby into this world, congratulations. This is like the beginning of your very, very joyous season. And honestly, I heard that from many people before I had a kid. I was like, oh, I'm miserable in this company. They just want me to have a kid so I can be miserable like them. Like, no, I am far from miserable. I am in love with my child. My husband is in love. We have grown as parents. We have grown as individuals, and we have grown as like husband and wife. We've learned to how to tag team a situation. And though there are times where me and him just don't see eye to eye, and I give you an example, like if you just had a baby and you are going through postpartum depression like I did, and if you literally cannot get any sleep, you are not alone. I have been there. It was the worst. And my man was working, right? Because again, I'm a stay at home mom and my husband works. And, he helped as much as he could, but he was also tired. He had to go to work and he works a physical labor job. As he would get some sleep at night, and my baby, a newborn, was, and again, I'm breastfeeding. I'm literally up 24/7. I couldn't let my baby go, but then the postpartum hormones were just not it. The postpartum hormones made me feel like I cannot be away from my baby, but I need to get a break because I needed sleep. I did not get any sleep. And my husband would do everything he could when he was up, but girl, when I will see that man sleep, I would be like enraged. I would feel this anger, this like a terrible feeling of I will harm you if you don't wake up and stay with me. And, like you don't even got to do that. I get you can't do anything because I'm breastfeeding, but like stay up with me. I can't be the only one here. But then I also have to remember like, yo, he has to work. But then I also remember it's like, yeah, but I'm with the baby 24/7. Like he gets his whatever hours amount of sleep. I can't even get an hour of sleep. And then I'm with the baby 24/7. And you ain't gonna be home until evening the next day. So like where do I get a break? So if you're going through that, just know you're not alone and it's valid. You are so validated in this moment because I've been there. It was the worst. And I know it may feel like it's never gonna end, but it's gonna end. And if you feel like crying because someone takes your baby, that is normal. It is so normal. And that's what God made us to be, nurturing, connected to our child. And like you held that child for 9 months, and now the child is outside of your womb, but that child's not used to not being in your womb. So he wants to, or she wants to be so close to you, where breastfeeding is the closest thing to being in your womb. It's just, that's the only way they can feel connected, and that's okay. But I just want you to know, like, if you're going through that, just know God is with you. God is gonna get you through this because it's so hard, so hard. I remember crying in Target when I was going through my postpartum depression. My mom was still here. It was maybe like a month in, and my husband and I, well, we were going through our own storm. He didn't get his promotion. And then that same day, we found out about it because he got the promotion and then it got taken away because of other factors that unfortunately were out of our control, which was really a sad moment. And I was going through my postpartum depression and I'm thinking, my mom's about to leave. Who's going to help? My husband is not home all the time. And I was just going through it. And as we're about to walk into the Target, my pastor's daughter just pulled up her car right next to us. And I was almost in tears. And she just pulled up and she's like, hey guys, with a very joyful self. And I'm like, oh, hey girl, like, what's going on? And then she got out the car. She said, "How's motherhood?" And I was like, "Oh, it's great." And then he's like, "Everything's great." We just had a little chit chat, and we went inside to Target, and we were going to like exchange diapers for a different size or something. And as we were walking towards the Target, back of the Target, we're about to go back, and we saw her. And my husband's like, honestly, I feel like she's here to pray for us. Like, what are the odds? She doesn't live in this city. She even said it. She was like, I wasn't supposed to be here. So my husband went to get the diapers, and I stopped her. I was like, hey, girl, when you're done, do you mind if I have like a quick little sidebar with you? And she's like, sure. And I basically like felt not convicted. I felt led by God to be like, confess with your mouth with everything you're feeling, with everything you're going through, and ask for a prayer. And I said, okay, I never really do this. So I was like, all right. And I never really talked to her like that, but we know each other. And I told her, I was like, girl, so I just told her, I was like, we kind of lied. We're not doing very well. I haven't been to church, obviously, because I just gave birth, had a C-section. It was a really hard labor. My kidneys were failing. My platelet levels were down. My preeclampsia was happening because the labor was taking over like a certain amount of hours because I was in labor for over 28 hours, but I knew it was like an attack of the enemy at the time. So I had a lot of people praying for me at the time. And so just remember, if you're about to give birth, don't let my story scare you because everyone's story is different. But I just had a lot of spiritual attacks at that time because we're trying to break through so many curses because God creates a family and the enemy hates a child because that's the closest thing to God. And the enemy hates a relationship that's marriage because that's a representation of what Jesus is to the church. So I had a lot of things we were going through at the time. So I just told her, I was like, girl, we were going through this, and I had to stay in the hospital a couple more days because they were like, your kidneys are failing, you have extreme preeclampsia. And I told her, like, my husband, we just found out today, like, they've revoked that promotion, which was supposed to help us financially, and we're financially struggling. I was like, and I have extreme postpartum depression. Like, can you please? And I'm like in tears because it was like the really one of the hardest times of our lives. And I was just telling her, I was like, can you please pray for us? And she did, like in the middle of the sorry guys, in the middle of the Target like clothing section, she just started praying for us. And it was like divine connection. She's like, I wasn't even supposed to be here. I was supposed to be in a different city, and something just told me like, just go to Chester, go to Target, and we ran into you. I ran into you, and I'm like, that's God. So God is gonna make things happen, bring people into your lives. And if you see someone who is like, especially someone from church or someone of faith that you don't normally see in your area, and it's like during one of your hardest moments in your life, and they just happen to run into you, be honest and vulnerable with them and just ask for prayer because you just never know. And that truly, in my opinion, changed the trajectory of our whole entire day and our whole entire life after that because I just felt a severe, like, not severe, I felt an extreme peace just go over and wash over us. So I just want to know, like, want you to know, like, as a new mom, it is so hard. So if you're going through postpartum depression, you're not alone. It's really the hardest thing, and no one's gonna understand. No husband, no man, anyone. Like they can say they understand, but they don't. But another mom does understand, and you're not going to be misunderstood, especially when someone else has gone through it. And I can honestly say I'll be praying for all the postpartum mamas who are going through depression because it's the hardest. And I was extreme, like hermit mode. I didn't want to talk to anyone, so that's okay too. God will meet you where you're at. If you're going through that today, I just pray God that He gives you blessing and protection, and I pray that He gives you a sound mind, and I pray that He gives you understanding and clarity and wisdom and what to do in that moment, and that He will be your support, and that days ahead will be better, and that joy will come in the morning, and it will come in the morning in Jesus' name. So I want to just thank you guys for tuning in, for all my newlyweds, all my postpartum mamas, and everybody else. Thank you so much for tuning in to God's Receptionist podcast, where it is my mommy ministries, and I will be just talking about God and how we use God and in our everyday lives. Not use Him, but like invite Him into our everyday lives, especially as being a new mom and learning how to navigate the waters of motherhood and learning how to just raise a biblical family. So thank you again for tuning in, whatever days this is, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, and whatever day it is, whether it is day, evening, morning, or night. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys next Friday. Bye, guys.